Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back. We will get started here in just a moment. But first, if you could hear me, and if we are streaming in 1080p, in addition, if you can rewind the stream, just go ahead and give us a thumbs up in the chat, and we will get started here in just a moment. Thank you all for joining. Hopefully you had a fantastic Super Bowl weekend. Alright, it looks like we're good, and looks like we have everybody here. So let's go ahead and kick this off. So good evening everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Today is Monday, February 12th, 2024. The time is 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time, and we are reporting live right here from Billionaires Row, East 56th Street and Madison Avenue on the east side of Manhattan tonight. Now it's interesting, right? Because I'm sure all of you have heard the news already. Apparently, New York City is going to get hit with a snowstorm. I was looking at the weather today. I was watching the briefing with the mayor in New York City, Eric Adams, and they're saying we're going to get probably 6 to 8 inches of snow. I'm not too sure about that. The interesting thing is this. Usually, okay, in my years of being in New York, whenever they're predicting a major snowstorm, I would say for New York, anything above 6 inches, usually turns out to be rain. So if I had to make a prediction, who knows, maybe it'll just be rain, be kind of like a wet mess tomorrow. Hopefully it's snow. Snow is actually a little bit more workable to get around as opposed to slushy, kind of nasty, wintry mix, if you will. But anyway, hopefully you all had a great Super Bowl weekend. I'm not a big football guy, but I did watch the game, and it was pretty entertaining, I thought. I don't know about you guys. I'm not sure if we have any football fans in the chat. That was a really good time. I was with some friends, some clients actually watching the game here in Manhattan, and it was pretty fun. I had a really good time. It's a crazy game, just a crazy, crazy game. And again, not a big football guy, but it was fun. It was a good time. So congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs on their back-to-back Super Bowl victory. But more important, we have to talk about the financial markets. Now, the S&P 500 closed well off of its high today, but one encouraging thing in the market that happened that we've been talking about and hoping that it happens, and today it actually did happen. And we need to talk about the small cap indice, or the Russell 2000. Now, if you want to follow along, you could look at the iShares, or I should say the BlackRock iShares Russell 2000 ETF. The ticker symbol is IWM, and today we closed back above that 50-day moving average. Now, the Russell hasn't really been participating, and this is something we've been talking about. Small cap stocks and even micro cap stocks, which we'll go into in a minute, haven't really been participating in the rally. But as we've seen some of the Magnificent Seven or the Fantastic Five stocks that were really up and out and going gangbusters into the highs, as we've seen them pull back a little bit, okay, as we've seen them take a little bit of a pause, the market seems to be rotating into those smaller cap stocks, which is healthy. That's actually what you want to see in a bull market, right? You don't want to see this very exacerbated and bifurcated market where you only have concentration into a few names and nothing else is participating. So now that I have my screen up, I think it'd be helpful just to kind of bring you guys behind the desk and show you here exactly what I'm talking about. The S&P 500 made a new all-time record high last week, closing above 5,000 for the first time in history. The Dow Jones Industrial Average and the NASDAQ all making new highs, but the Russell 2000 has been quite truncated. Once again, check this out. This is a visual of the IWM. Now, this is the ETF of the small caps, so the Russell 2000, and we've been truncated in this range here. We've been in a range from about 160 up to about 200 since early 2022, but the market has started to rally a little bit and show some of these smaller cap companies some love. So as we've come down here and tested the 50-day moving average on some of these smaller cap stocks, we've been rallying, and hopefully we will break out of this 200 range and test record highs on the Russell 2000. If that happens, I mean, that is probably the most textbook bull market behavior, okay? This market is probably as strong as I've ever seen it in my trading career. I was on a call with a few hedge fund managers that are sort of mentors to me 2 days ago over the weekend, and they're sort of saying the same thing. A lot of the leaders are already out, and again, we're going to talk about this in the newsletter, because usually at the start of a new bull market, the stocks that are the first to break out in the new high territory, right, 52-week highs that are up and out first, those tend to be the liquid leaders or the true market leaders of the cycle. Once they pull back, you're going to start to see the secondary, right? So I should say like the B team start to rally and test their highs. A few examples. We'll take a look at PLTR. Palantir has been a laggard. I think this is probably a second-rate idea here. It's a great company, but it hasn't really broken out of this IPO base. This will probably come out of here, but this is probably a second-tier idea, right? Because it's not in the new high territories. The next one is Snowflake. I actually don't like this name at all, but this is good to show you sort of what we're talking about here. Snowflake has been it got crushed, right? Along with a lot of the other high beta growth stocks throughout the bear market of 2021 into 2022. But you're just starting to see it emerge from this stage one base, right? But this is a laggard. All of the leaders are already well out in a new high territory. For an example, NVDA. I mean, guys, look, this came out in the new high territory back in May of 2023, okay, and it's run to over 700. Another example of a leader that's already up and out into new high territory is ServiceNow, Bill McDermott's company, right? So remember, at the start of a new bull market, historically, the stocks or the companies that tend to perform the best are the first ones out the gate, okay? The first ones out to the gate to go, they're up and out, they're extended, they got to pull back, they will pull back, and what you want to see is a rotation, number one, in the smaller caps to start to see breadth of the market broadening out a little bit, but you also want to see participation in some of the second-rate names that don't really have the best fundamentals, don't have the best earnings growth, don't have the best sales growth, and the like. That's all I got. That's all I got for you guys. Quick announcement, by the way. Thursday, we will be sending out our third issue of our free investing newsletter called Behind the Street. This is what it looks like. So if you want to be signed up to receive all of our equity research for free, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. And again, every other Thursday, right at the closing bell, I send out our market sort of recap and newsletter. It's a great read. It's a great way to support the stream for free. And it's a great way to stay up to date on the markets, corporate earnings, both U.S. equities, emerging markets, and fixed income. So with that being said, let me go ahead and close up the laptop here. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat, and we will get this stream started the night before the big snowstorm hits New York City. So give me a second and we'll get started. All right, let's see here. Once again, if you scan that QR code on your screen, punch in your email, that'll bring you to our Substack. We publish every other week. This Thursday, we're gonna publish our next issue. You guys do not wanna miss that, my friends. All right, I see my good friend Flat Smack is here. DA, welcome. Ali BHG, the one and only Western Mass Dave, thank you so much. Appreciate you, Dave, for being here. Hopefully you're doing well as we stand directly on the corner of East 56th Street and Madison Avenue. Again, we have these stunning views of 432 Park. Maybe tomorrow this time we'll be seeing 432 Park Avenue covered in snow. I think that'd be pretty interesting to see. Now, I will promise you guys this. If it does snow tomorrow, okay, fingers crossed it's not raining, I think I want to take a little bit of a walk through Central Park because we haven't seen Central Park with the snow on the ground. And I mean, when's the last time we saw Central Park with snow on the ground? Probably 2 years ago, actually. Yeah. I'm talking about like any snow that's stuck on the ground in Central Park, Hawaii. Andy says, good evening, Tom and everybody. And Miss Missy says, Tom, Biden turned the economy back around in remarkable time for Trump flatlining the economy and supply chain. Jobs have blown records. Unemployment has been, or I'm assuming you mean unemployment has been at record lows. Yeah, I mean, the economy is doing very, very well, and it's been rather resilient, right? Quite to the contrary of all the experts out there, right? You have a lot of major economists on Wall Street, even analysts who've been calling for, you know, stock market crash, worst recession since 2008, and this market just kind of keeps chugging along, right? So, yeah, it's true. It is true. Who else we got? UniJ23, what's up? Talent 103, good to see you. Let's see who else we got. John Sunderland, yeah, talking about MSCI or SMCI. That's another massive, major liquid true market leader. Major true market leader there. And these are all the characteristics that we talk about. Now, it's important, right, to keep tabs and keep a mental note on the stocks that are performing the best, because you can actually work backwards and kind of use this as a model book. This is what I do oftentimes. And you could do this even if you're not trading individual stocks. If you're not an individual stock investor, that's fine. You could still do this because it helps you in the business world too. Now, generally speaking, okay, when a stock is outperforming, it's usually outperforming for a reason, right? So the way I was taught, and it may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised it's not so obvious to some people. You've probably heard, you know, major analysts and major talking heads on TV, or maybe your favorite podcast host say, oh, the stock market or this particular stock is so overvalued, I'd never buy this. This stock is so expensive. I'd rather buy this cheap stock that's trading, you know, at a 52-week low because it's super cheap, right? I'm sure everybody's heard that before. Well, you kind of got to be careful with that, right? I think, right, in my view, markets are efficient, right? And there's a lot of smart people out in the investment business, particularly right here in this city. You know, if we take a step, literally 50 feet in that direction, in that building, 425 Park Avenue, you have some of the smartest individuals in the financial business in the world right there, okay, on the 10th floor of that building at Citadel Securities. So the point I'm trying to make is stocks are expensive for a reason, and stocks are cheap for a reason, right? That was probably one of the greatest pieces of advice I've ever gotten from a very successful investor. Hold on one second. I feel like the camera was zoomed in a little bit, right? But anyway, I mean, think about it. Stocks a company, and I'm going to try to avoid using the word stock, because a lot of people tend to forget that they think of stocks as just pieces of paper. There's a company behind every stock, but companies are expensive oftentimes for a reason and cheap for a reason, because Wall Street is willing to pay a premium for great product, right? So take a look at Nvidia right now. Take a look at some of the true market leaders that we've been talking about. These stocks are all up and out into brand new all-time record highs and 52-week highs. And many people would say, oh, these stocks are garbage, they're so expensive, they're junk. Well, stocks oftentimes are expensive for a reason, and stocks are cheap for a reason, right? I mean, just go take any pick at a random penny stock. You know, these things are literally under $5. And it's like that for a reason, because institutional investors and smart investors buy companies based on the earnings power, the earnings quality, and the future earnings of the company, right? So it's important to make a mental note of the kind of stocks that are doing really well and that have done well over the past, let's say, 5-10 years. And you'll notice very, very similar characteristics about these companies, right? Very, very similar characteristics. Most all of them, right, have probably been growing their revenues 25% plus at a minimum per annum. They've been compounding out their earnings at 25% plus per annum at a minimum, probably. They have great return on equity, probably 20% plus. And they have very high pre-tax and after-tax margins, right? Particularly, just a quick example, and then I'll kind of shut up here as we approach Billionaires Row. Particularly a lot of these SaaS companies, right, or cloud-based companies that have the majority of their revenue on a reoccurring basis. So as a service, right, a subscription basis. And a lot of times you'll see these software companies during a bull market go through what's called a multiple expansion. So their PE ratios will blow out, and that's because Wall Street is willing to pay a premium for earnings and sales predictability, right? Earnings and sales predictability. And if you can continue to grow your recurring revenue at 10% per annum, and you only have, let's say, a 1% churn ratio, well, then that's going to be very predictable earnings and sales for the street. All right, we are now standing outside of the Aston Martin showroom. Look at how cool this thing looks. I'm not a big car guy, but look at how cool that looks. Hey, Bonzo Law, what's up? Vincent Lee. Yeah, I'm not too sure the model, but I mean, this thing looks fascinating. Super, super cool. And I love the design. You know, they designed the showroom perfectly. Talent 103 says, I used to work at the Colgate Palmolive. Oh, cool. Yeah, 300 Park Avenue. That's right here, right? I think that's a few blocks down. That's so funny. Hey, FredX. It's so good to see you guys. What is going on, FredX? Long time no see. God bless you, sir. You're just in time for the snowstorm, FredX. You're just in time for the flurries to start falling, my friend. I know, April, May, it says it looks like something out of a James Bond movie. It really does look like something out of a James Bond movie. Especially this guy. Look at this one. This looks like something directly out of a James Bond movie. Hey, Brad's Brains. Tom, is PE even relevant today? I really enjoyed David Aaron's thoughts. Oops, let me scroll back up. I think it's relevant. I personally don't use it. But Brad, I'm going to check out that podcast for sure. Oh, someone says we're missing all the information. My audio is going out. Yeah, maybe because it's windy, the audio is going in and out, which I apologize for. I'll probably have to get a new microphone. We're still using the stock microphone in the iPhone, so I apologize for the crappy audio. But here's the thing. If you're only buying low PE stocks, chances are you're never going to catch one of these monsters, right? I mean, you're never going to catch, one of these Nvidias. I think the word on the street, they call them value traps, right? There's a lot of value traps on the street. Now, a little bit of news, we've covered this before, but this building is the Four Seasons Hotel. Look at that. Now, this has been closed since the COVID virus, unfortunately. But the good news is this year in 2024, it's going to be reopening. Hey, Jimmy B, this is Tom. My first job, Newmont Mining, 300 Park Avenue. Very cool. Zozo Bob, what's up? This is 5K on the S&P last Friday. I remember when it hit 500. Holy crap. Yeah, I mean, think about that, man. That's the Jesse Livermore big round number right there. Yeah, I mean, 5,000 on the S&P. And, we've been cooking through the top. And that's usually what happens, by the way, right? There's been a lot of analysts making the comparison to this market in 2008. Because they're like, oh, well, just before the financial crisis, the stock market was hitting record highs. True, but it wasn't emerging out of one of the most ferocious bear markets we've ever seen, okay? And a lot of people are kind of unbeknownst to that. It may not have seemed like it, but if you look under the hood of this market, and we talk about this a lot, if you go back to 2021, particularly if you look at the Russell 2000, or if you look at the NASDAQ 100, right? Or, right, I'll give you one better, if you look at some of the high beta, extremely, extremely high beta ETFs, like the ARK Innovative Growth ETFs, those stocks, guys, got freaking pounded, okay? Down 90%, right? So this bear market that we are emerging from has been very, very fierce. So, an example, and we could, follow along and do this together. Ticker symbol ARKK, right? That hit a fresh record highs. The ETF was screaming, right? Due to all the COVID stimulus, due to the fiscal and monetary stimulus, those high beta nonsense stocks were screaming, okay? Then they got pounded. And the ARK Innovative ETF is still trading at, in that very, very low range. I would call it the COVID box low. So the NASDAQ 100, I believe, retraced just about 35%, right, in the bear market that we're emerging from. So if we think about what that means, okay, if the major equity index is down 35%, well, the individual stocks in that index probably went down 70, 80, 90%, which they did, by the way, right? And that's called beta. And we could sort of go into, how to, beta weight a portfolio. Essentially, if you own, a basket of stocks that very, very closely correlate to the S&P 500, you own just beta, right? Because it moves in tandem with the S&P. But let's say if the S&P 500 is up 1% on the day, right? And your portfolio, let's say if you own like an Nvidia, ServiceNow, and a few other tech companies, chances are your portfolio is up maybe 7 to 10% on the day, because it has a very, very high beta, high beta, right? So those individual stocks got crushed during this most recent bear market. But a lot of the larger cap companies kind of masked that decline. So, not to ramble on, but the point I think I'm trying to make is that the reason why I believe it's different, right? And the famous last words on Wall Street is it's different this time, is in 2008, the market wasn't coming off of a very, very severe bear market. It was just trading at the all-time record highs. We are just emerging. We're just breaking the record highs after about a year and a half bear market, when all the major indices have formed these perfect cup with handle patterns. So I don't think it's an appropriate comparison in my view. I don't know, what do you guys think? I mean, I want to know your thoughts more than my thoughts, selfishly. Jeff W277 says ARKK is at the same level. Oops, chat's moving too fast. That it was the first half of April 2020. Yeah, it's trading in that box. Peters, Tom, the ARK ETF is very concentrated in a few stocks and not very diversified. So when one of its holdings is in disfavor, performance will suffer. Know what you are buying. Yeah, it's a ETF that owns a lot of high beta growth stocks. Absolutely, right? And that's kind of the point. Because the average person, right, just looks at the market and they say, oh, what did the Dow do today? Oh, what did the S&P 500 do?
Oh,
right?
I see. Okay, you're right.
Those are, I mean, if you look at the average person who isn't actively managing a portfolio or, really is kind of in the financial markets, right, or in the business, they say, oh, what's the Dow at today? What's the S&P at, right? And if the S&P was down 20%, which is a big move, and the Dow was down 20%, which is still a huge move, I mean, they're not going to feel it like what some of the individual stocks were down, right? That's kind of my point. So that has gave this perception to people that it wasn't really that bad of a bear market, when what I'm saying is, when I analyze individual stocks, this was, I mean, about as bad of a bear market as you could get in 2022 and 2023. I mean, it was absolutely ferocious bear, okay? Another sort of piece of corroborating evidence, right, we could turn to is the capital markets, particularly initial public offerings, IPOs, SPACs, and private equity, okay? In 2021, it was the best year on record for IPOs. The IPO market, the deal-making market on Wall Street was just sickening, okay? Investment bankers were making money hand over fist, bringing nonsensical companies to market. They made a killing in the SPAC market, special purpose acquisition companies, which the vast majority of those, I believe, were frauds. Wall Street still made a killing, right? Massive money was made in those fraudulent SPACs. And that's kind of a gauge on the frothiness of the market at that time. 2022, 2023, there was no IPO market, okay? It was totally shut off. And I believe this year, 2024, the IPO market's gonna come roaring back. It's gonna come screaming back in a big way, at least hopefully, right? Now this is a pretty cool shot of the Plaza Hotel. And if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. And if you want to take a deeper dive into the conversations that we're talking about, if you scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email, I write a free investing newsletter and I email it to everybody in the Walks on Wall Street channel every other Thursday right as the market is closing, okay? So this coming Thursday, everybody check your email. You're gonna get the third issue of the Behind the Street newsletter for 2024. And we're gonna talk about a lot of the things we spoke about tonight, right? Why the IPO market is probably poised to open, why the private equity market is probably poised to reopen, venture capital, and what kind of clues can we look for that can lead us to that determination as to why we think the capital markets are really going to open up in a big way. So if you want to be in tune and receive all of our equity research, just subscribe to our Substack for free, just by scanning the QR code or type !news, NEWS, in the chat, and punch in your email. All right, this is 5th Avenue, but we're going to start to head further into Midtown Manhattan. What I want to do is, now that the wind is picking up a little bit, I kind of want to stay in the center of the island. The further you go west or the further you go east, you're going to get that wind picking up. And it's a little bit too cold. Well, it's going to get cold, and I don't want to be out really too much in the wind. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what is going on? Thanks so much. AUS Fly Girl says, hey there. Tom, can't help but think how you're doing in the coat department. Are you all set? Coat department is all set. Doing very well in the coat department. I got a big winter puffer jacket on, which is funny because over the weekend it was 60 degrees. Welcome to New York City. One day it's 60 degrees, the next day we're preparing for a snowstorm. Robert Parker, what's up? Says, hey Tom, how are you? I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for joining us as we stand outside of the Tiffany store. Now, Bernard Arnault, CEO of LVMH Moet Hennessy, they actually acquired Tiffany. So this is in the portfolio of LVMH now. They spent about $500 million, $250 million, to revamp and renovate the Tiffany flagship on 5th Avenue. And the place is amazing. I want to try to get some footage inside for the viewers. I'm just not too sure if we're allowed to film in there. So I may have to get permission to do that. If I can't get footage in there, and if you're visiting New York City, you just got to take a walk around inside. The place is pretty impressive. Quite incredible. Tug Carter says, Tom, how much snow you think you guys will get? Well, okay, here's the thing. I'll make a prediction. Usually, okay, in New York City, usually what happens when they hype up a big snowstorm, we usually get no snow and it's usually just rain. I think that's probably what will happen, to be honest. But according to the experts, we should be expecting about 6 inches on the low end, and on the high end, about 8 inches. But we'll see. We'll see. We're now standing outside of the Trump Tower. It's open to the public from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Surfboard, what's going on? Thank you so much for your very generous $10 donation. This is Hope All is well, Tom. I appreciate your support and your generosity. Appreciate it very, very much. My friend, Surfboard. John Sunderland says, Tom, are you still going to work tomorrow? Yeah, I have a couple showings, which is good news. So I'll still be out in the city. I mean, 6 inches is not too bad. It's not like I'm driving in it. I'm just walking around. You know, I live in Midtown Manhattan, so I'll just take public transportation. I don't drive, so. But yeah, and if I have time, if it's snowing, I'll get some good footage for you guys, because quite honestly, we haven't really had any precipitation or any real accumulation, I should say, in snow in New York City in like 2 years. I should say real accumulation, like, 3 to 4 inches. It's kind of been like nothing over the last 2 years. Robert Parker says, Tom, only 2 to 4 inches here on Long Island. Hey, Fahim says, how's your boot game? Boot game is probably 2.6 out of 10. Boot game is very low. Very, very low, very piss poor, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'll probably just destroy a pair of shoes tomorrow if it snows. So now we're coming up on the corner of East 55th Street and 5th Avenue. To our right, we have the Peninsula Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel here in New York City. And on the left, we have the St. Regis Hotel, which is another 5-star hotel in New York. Very nice, beautiful hotels. All but very expensive, I should say. Let me just catch up on some comments. Chris B says, evening, Tom. Somehow we went from thunderstorms earlier to 2 to 3 inches of snow in less than 30 minutes just outside of Nashville. Wow. Yeah, that's right. Brad's brain. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I'm not a big football guy. Is anybody a big football guy or girl in the chat? Now, I'm not, but I will say this. I watch the game. I watch every Super Bowl, right? If it's a Super Bowl, I'll watch it just because it's, it's fun. You sit down, you eat, you have a good time. That was probably one of the most exciting sports games I've seen, right? Including, any of the World Cup games I've ever seen. That was just a really, really exciting game. And I think I enjoyed it more because I really didn't care who was going to win. So I was just kind of, watching. But wow, overtime win. Incredible. I had a good time. I had a really good time last night watching the Super Bowl. It was a fun time. Brad's this big football guy. It was a great game. I had a good time. And there was a lot of people out in the city in Manhattan. I was at this really nice bar watching it with a few friends and actually some clients too. And there were a ton of Kansas City jerseys out. Really cool. Hey, JH. What's up? Hey, Tom. It's good to see you tonight. Very good game indeed. It was an awesome game. Let's actually cut across 5th Avenue and head to 6th. We'll do that. Now, I think the biggest question is, what did you guys think of the halftime performance? Usher was doing the halftime performance, and I thought it was quite good. Very entertaining. Peter says the ads were disappointing and the halftime show was boring. I'm not a football fan, but enjoy the social aspect. I actually thought the halftime show was pretty good. I like the halftime show a lot. The interesting thing is this, right? We'll cross the street. Now, every time I ride my Vespa down Biscayne Boulevard, or excuse me, not Biscayne Boulevard, Collins Avenue, I apologize. Right through Mid-Beach, and I'm not sure if we have any people in the chat that are super familiar with South Florida, particularly Miami. But if you drive or ride your Vespa or whatever, right, walk down, I should say, Collins Avenue, right around Mid-Beach, you're gonna see just amazing, amazing homes right on the other side of that little canal there, the intercoastal. And every time I look to the right, I see this huge mega yacht, and it says Usher on the side of it. And I think that's his estate. I think that's his huge house. So I don't know, I was intrigued to see, Usher perform, because every time I drive my Vespa down Collins Avenue, I see this huge yacht. This yacht is so massive. The yacht has a yacht attached to it, and it says Usher across the side in big, big letters. And I'm assuming that's his, right? I mean, who else would have, a huge yacht that says Usher? I think that's probably his place in Miami Beach. Douglas is until Lincoln Road. It's kind of as you go down there. I think this is more in like the 30s or the 40s, I think. But anyway, hey, what's up, Cosmo? Good to see you. Says Tommy, you ready for the snow? I think I am. I honestly think I am ready for the snow. Hopefully it's not a big letdown, right? We haven't had any significant accumulation in a long time. So I'm ready. Hopefully it's not a big letdown. We'll see. Now, this is a good shot of 53 West 53rd Street. Again, this is a building that is technically a part of Billionaires Row, but it is not on 57th Street. But it has all the amenities and the allure of a building that you would expect on New York City's Billionaires Row right there. This is coming up on the Alliance Bernstein building. Hey, Joseph Hardaway, what's up? Now, one of the things that was funny that I did notice about this morning, usually on my Monday morning commute, I walk right past Grand Central, all the way up to my office at 57th Street in Madison. Usually Monday mornings are pretty packed. There was nobody today. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably makes sense because the Super Bowl went into overtime and I'm sure everybody was out very, very late. There was almost nobody commuting to the office this morning. I'm sure everybody said, hey, I'm just going to work remote today. Not coming into the office. I'm sure pretty much everybody in Kansas City didn't go to the office today. Now, my old company headquarters was actually in a place called Overland Park, Kansas. Is anybody familiar with that, by the way? Overland Park, Kansas. Now, Overland Park is currently the main headquarters of T-Mobile. That's T-Mobile's main headquarters right now. But before, right back before the big merger, right, both Sprint and T-Mobile merged. I'd say, you know, it's pretty much just like T-Mobile bought Sprint, right? T-Mobile was in a much better, I would say, financially good standing. You know, it was a much better, from a financial stability point, T-Mobile was much better positioned. But the interesting thing about that acquisition, or the merger, whatever you want to call it, is it's funny because if you think about 5G networks right now, 5G networks in the United States are mainly being built out on mid-band spectrum. And Sprint, okay, which Sprint was formerly Nextel, and then you had that merger. If anybody remembers the company Nextel, those little one-click chirp phones, is anybody old enough to remember those? The Nextel, like, chirp direct connect devices? Anyway. But Sprint had a ton of that really valuable mid-band spectrum. So when the two companies merged, T-Mobile was able to take over all that spectrum. And if I had to make a bet, T-Mobile, in my view, is in the best position, okay, out of any of the major carriers, Verizon, AT&T, to be able to build out a true, robust 5G network and an IoT platform, right? A traditional IoT platform with everything you would need, you know, very, very low latency, high throughput. So, yeah, anyway, so Sprint, their headquarters was in Overland Park, Kansas. And that was way back in the day when I was working for the company. And SoftBank, right? SoftBank made a major investment. So Masa-san, SoftBank, for those of you who don't know, is a Japanese company, a Japanese conglomerate. Masayoshi-san is the CEO and founder. And Masa-san appointed Marcelo as the CEO of Sprint. Now, I believe they had a relationship because Marcelo, who is an unbelievable entrepreneur and amazing CEO, I've actually had the pleasure of meeting him multiple times in the New York City office. I mean, that guy is a monster. This is an incredible business guy, Marcelo Clarer. And he sold his company, Brightstar, I believe for over $1 billion. He sold his company Brightstar to, I believe he sold it to SoftBank. I don't know where I was going with this, but hopefully you got some information out of it. All right, we just made a left on Billionaires Row. This is 57th Street. And I want to show everybody the Steinway Tower. Okay, this is 111 West 57th Street. This is one of the tallest and skinniest residential apartment buildings in the entire world. Vinny's push to talk was a great feature. It was a great feature. Those little chirp Nextel phones, very funny. NYC home, what's up? Michelle says, I have a family there, used to live there. Hey, RHJ says, Overland Park, Kansas, loves Tom sprinting the Chiefs. Yeah, it was a great town. You know, when I used to go there for like corporate outings and corporate events, it was a really, really fun town. Now, what I will say about it, everything closes so early. Now, maybe that's coming from a New Yorker, right? This was back, I would say this was all the way back in 2018, guys. Okay, this was way back in the day. But I would go to Overland Park, Kansas, and we would get out of our meetings and everything was closed. Like everything. So it's more of a, you know, rural, suburban, like there's some really, really nice houses there, like huge houses. The houses are like those McMansions that you see in Texas. It's a nice area. I just don't know if it's for me. I think I need to be in a major city. Fluttershy says, congratulations on my engagement. That's news to me, but thank you. Appreciate it. Maybe there's something I should know. Anyway, this is the Steinway Tower. This is the skinniest residential apartment building in the entire world. Actually built on the base of the old Steinway piano headquarters, 111 West 57th Street. Beautiful, beautiful building. No way. Someone says there was 16 million call-outs today due to the Super Bowl. That's hilarious. Oh, you know what's my favorite? You know what's my favorite thing that I always like to look up? Hold on. All right, we should be back. I think we just had a little bit of a dead zone over here. Let's see if we're back. All right, this is 157 West 57th Street. So anyway, what I was saying is there's this Twitter account that tracks private jets, and they do like a time lapse of all of the air traffic flying in to the Vegas airport for the Super Bowl and flying out, and there's a crazy amount of private jets, as you can imagine. Flying in every year just for the Super Bowl at those different locations. So if you could find that account, you know, it just goes to show, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of people in America, right? There's a lot of people in the world with a ton of money. I mean, there must have been like 500 or so private jets, you know, maybe even more, you know, just flying in for the Super Bowl and then flying home. And it shows all the locations where they land. And the top locations where they land is New York City, Miami, San Francisco, and LA. And Dallas, Texas. Which makes sense, right? You know, people just fly in for the Super Bowl, then they go back to New York, they go back to San Francisco, probably all the tech bros, LA, right? Kind of crazy. Anyway. Hey, Dan Sang, what's going on? This is Tom. Tomorrow's snowstorm will be perfect for you to have some Molotov. Maybe I'll have to check that out in Koreatown again, although that's probably the most, to your point, expensive bowl of Molotov ever. John A says, did you hear about that Nigerian banker's plane that crashed going into Vegas? I did not hear about that. Hopefully everybody's all right. Man, I didn't hear about that. Sad. Pineapple Waters is that guy who does that private jet route. gets backlash from superstars, including Taylor Swift. Oh, does he really? Look, I mean, as long as there's nothing malicious, I think that's fine. Oh, Peter says Tom, an acquaintance in Knoxville, flew his Falcon jet to the Super Bowl, but had to land in Utah because Las Vegas had over 1,000 of them and couldn't handle more. Yeah, that's just, I mean, things like that, I mean, to Peter's point, right? Things like that really open my mind to the possibilities, right? You know, if there's thousands, literally, you know, over 1,000 private jets just going to one sporting event one day, there's a lot of people that are successful in this world. Like a lot. It's crazy. Hey, Pop, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Hopefully you're doing well and hopefully work is good. TK Porsche says there were too many jets for Las Vegas. McCarran. They parked them as far off as St. George, Utah. Wow. Cosmo. Yeah, Cosmo. Yeah, maybe one day I'll have my own PJ. I won't have to borrow Cosmo's. You know, usually I take a trip all the way out to Farmingdale Airport. Cosmo sometimes lets me use his PJ to get back and forth between Miami and New York, which I appreciate very much. So maybe one day I could afford my own. Hey, the AUS Fly Girl, appreciate your $10 donation. So stay warm, pick up some soup, good coffee or tea. I appreciate your support and your generosity. Thank you so much. As we are standing outside 217 West 57th Street. This is the tallest residential apartment building on Billionaires Row. The developer is Extel. So Gary Burnett and Extel developed Central Park Tower. Now we did just have a record sale, okay? A record-breaking, record-shattering sale. The duplex that sits atop of Central Park Tower just sold for $110 million. Pretty insane. I mean, think about one apartment in Manhattan, all the way up there. A duplex sold for $110 million. Now, the interesting thing is this building right here, Central Park Tower, and this one right here, 157, are the exact same developer. But 157 really set the precedent and pioneered New York City's Billionaires Row. We do have a lot of new people here, so I will give this book recommendation one more time. If you're watching this and you're interested in New York City real estate, particularly New York City real estate development, if you're wondering how these developers can build these buildings so tall, right? I want to recommend the following book. It's called Billionaires Row by Catherine Clark. Okay, so write that down. It's called Billionaires Row by Catherine Clark. It's a fantastic read. Okay, it's an unbelievable read. You could also get it on Audible, the audiobook. And Catherine Clark is probably one of the most talented journalists that covers all things real estate at the Wall Street Journal. And throughout her years, right, covering the development and the sales of some of the most expensive and luxurious properties in New York City, she wrote a book called Billionaires Row. And she does a deep dive into how 432 Park Avenue was built with Harry Mackellow. She goes into 220 Central Park South with Steve Roth and Vernado. She talks about Gary Burnett and Extel. So if you want to know how all of these super tall, crazy buildings are built, go ahead and check out that book. Pretty good. Let me know how you like it. All right, everybody, so we're now currently standing on the corner of Broadway and West 57th Street. We're looking uptown towards Columbus Circle and the Trump International Hotel and Tower. I believe the first 16 floors of this building is the hotel, and then everything above the 16th floor is the residences. Pretty cool. Hey, Vinny, this is great read, lots of interesting tidbits. it's very cool. I mean, it's a good educational book, right? It talks about air rights, assemblage, right? The process of assemblage, going through and assembling all these air rights so you can build as high as you can. It's pretty cool. Peter says, what is the status of the lawsuit filed against the developers of these super tall skyscrapers? Many problems. Well, that was at 432 Park. So I believe the problems were really isolated at 432 Park. And I think they've overcome a lot of those issues there. I don't remember hearing any major issues at 157 or Steinway or even Central Park Tower. The problem building was 432 Park. But I believe they've sort of ironed out all those issues, to be quite honest. Okay, now we are crossing 8th Avenue. This is looking down by the Port Authority bus terminal. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams every single day starting at 8:30. We'd love to have you join us. Harry Connors is clouding up. Can you smell the snow yet? Not yet. I mean, I don't really see too many clouds in the sky, do you? I mean, I guess it's a little bit overcast, but we'll see. I'm ready for the snow. I'm ready. T-Cal says, how much does it cost to rent a private jet? The cost to rent a private jet varies from $2,000 to $14,000 per billable flight hour. Wow. Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't know. I've never been on a private jet. I think I'll stick to my American Airlines economy class. Oftentimes it can get me from New York City to Miami for $75. I think I'll stick with that. It's not too bad. 2.5 hours from JFK to Miami, Florida. I've never really had any issues with American Airlines. Only, right, with the exception of 2022 and a little bit, I would say the very, very early part of 2023. But I think they get a free pass because everybody had issues, right? Due to staffing shortages, due to supply chain shortages. It was a crazy time in 2021. We were just emerging out of the COVID pandemic. So I think the airlines get a pass. Oh, is that right? Josie says, Tom, the rain will start at 1 a.m. and then it converts over to snow at 5 a.m. Well, then that actually could probably be pretty dangerous. If it's gonna be pouring raining starting at 1 a.m. and then it's gonna freeze, I mean, it's probably gonna be all ice on the roads. So if you are traveling, I probably wouldn't drive if you're in the tri-state area. The roads are probably going to be all ice, and I haven't seen not one snowplow out, at least not yet. Usually they put salt on the ground. You know what I'm talking about? They usually have like the salt sprayer. I don't know. Brad says, Tom, a buddy of mine flies the corporate jet a lot. He says there's nothing like knowing the plane is waiting for you at the TSA. I know, I can imagine that, man. Now, to Brad's point, and to kind of tie this back into the financial conversation, there's even been a lot of the airlines, right? A lot of the major airlines, even on their earnings calls, which has been quite interesting, come out and say that, please apply for a job to be a pilot. Apparently, in the United States, we have a shortage of pilots. And those are very lucrative careers, by the way. Not only if you fly commercial, right? Or I should say if you fly passenger jet, but also if you fly for UPS, if you fly for FedEx, if you're a pilot for those companies, those are really lucrative careers, and they're very, very good jobs. You get very good benefits. So if anybody is young, thinking about a career, you're going to be in high demand, right? We have a shortage of pilots, and you'll be making six figures, right? That's something we really need. So anybody here in the chat a pilot, by the way? Any airline pilots? I'd love to know your take on that. Oh, that's true. Bill says the rain will wash the salt away. Hey, what's up, Deborah? Says I think they're salted by the sidewalks, Macy's Herald Square. Vincent says, Tom, it's raining in Philly right now. It'll change to snow around 2 a.m. John A. says, problem is flight school is soon expensive. Or is too expensive? Well, I mean, it can't be as expensive. I mean, it's probably just as expensive as going to college, right? And getting a 4-year degree or something. You could always join the military, right? What if you join the Air Force or the Marines, and they'll teach you how to be a pilot for free? You actually get paid to do it, right? Look at this mini NYPD cruiser here. Oh, John says you have to be a flight instructor first. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any experience with this at all, but apparently it's a very lucrative career. Oh, Western Mass Dave. Yeah, Dave. Interesting because, so a good friend of ours, which I appreciate, I won't give out his name on the stream, but a good friend of ours gave me tickets to a really, really amazing show in New York City at the Beacon Theater on Saturday. So if you notice, we didn't do a live stream this past Saturday, which I do apologize for, but I went to a really, really cool show at the Beacon Theater. Is anybody familiar with Amy Poehler? She was, I'm not a big comic, SNL guy, but it was an amazing show. And I've never been to the Beacon Theater before. And wow, what a fun time. So thank you for the tickets to that. It was a sold out show. And that was the only comedy show I've ever been to in my life. At the Beacon Theater, it was absolutely gorgeous in there. If anybody is thinking about visiting New York City, you've got to go to the Beacon Theater. You've got to go there. It's so cool on the inside, and it's not that big. It's kind of like cozy in there. It's not like big like Radio City Music Hall. I think it only holds like 2,600 people. Awesome experience. So cool. Yeah. So thank you, my friend, for those tickets. Yeah, it was an awesome show. How am I forgetting the other lady's name? They're a pair. I'm just blanking on the name because I've been streaming for over an hour. But it's Amy Poehler and then her partner, who they've been together for like 50 years. I just forget what the other name was. Anyway, they were cast members on Tina Fey. Got it. Yeah, it was Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. An amazing comedy show in Lincoln at Beacon Theater. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. It was hilarious too. Hilarious. I was a little bit nervous, by the way, going there because a lot of times when I think about comedy shows, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna call on you in the audience and roast you. It wasn't like that at all. It was more storytelling of their career. in a comedic way, which was very unique. So they've been together, you know, since they were just like starting out their careers in comedy. Back in Chicago, they were waiting tables together, and then they rose to these superstars on Saturday Night Live, SNL. So yeah, awesome stuff. And one of our viewers, like, head of security for those two. So I appreciate you very much, my friend. Oh, no way. Deborah says Jerry Seinfeld just played at Beacon. He's from Massapequa. Yes, he is. He's from my hometown, Jerry Seinfeld. I'm also from Massapequa. My family's from Massapequa. Now, the funny thing is this. My mother and father went to the same high school as the Baldwins. It's called Burner High School, the Burner Bisons in Massapequa, New York. And right now, it's actually not a high school. I think they turned Burner High School into a middle school. But back in the day, yeah, they went to all went to high school together. The Baldwins. Yeah. Interesting fact. All right, let's start to head downtown. I don't think there's going to be too many people in Times Square tonight, so maybe we'll head down there and check it out. Let's make a right. Skips. Seinfeld will be back at the Beacon March 8th. I may have to go see that. I really like Seinfeld a lot. Now, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a recent story why I really appreciate Jerry Seinfeld. Does anybody remember the very, very iconic article? I believe this was in the New York Times. I have it, by the way. I've saved it. Jerry Seinfeld wrote an article in the New York Times during the depths of the COVID pandemic, when everybody was saying New York City is never going to come back, the city's going to hell. You know, everybody was so doom and gloom on New York City. And Seinfeld wrote just this amazing, amazing piece, pretty much saying how everybody's totally wrong and how New York City is going to come screaming back. And I read that and I'm like, I totally agree. I'm like, everybody's on the wrong side of the trade here, right? Usually when everybody's stacked on one side of the trade, that's the wrong side of the trade. And yeah, I think Jerry Seinfeld was spot on. You know, New York City is one of those cities that will never be down and out. It's a very cyclical city, right? It goes through peaks, it goes through its troughs, its hard times and its good times. But New York City always bounces back. It's a really good article. I actually saved that, by the way. This is the Sheraton, New York, right here. Brad says Seinfeld is a must-see, Tom. I saw him before his TV show, and again about 5 years ago. I like his style of comedy. It's like very... I don't know how to explain it. If you are from a family, right, that's from Long Island, New York, or have grandparents that are from, you know, Long Island, Queens, that kind of thing, you get the comedy. It's like very... I don't know how to explain it, but I think you guys get it. For those people who understand. Now, when I was a kid, when I mean kid, I was 17, 18 years old. One of my first jobs ever in New York City, I was working at a rental car company. But my job there was when the people would return the rental cars, I would take them down into the garage and I would vacuum them out, I would wash them, and unbeknownst to me, Seinfeld's personal and private garage, where he keeps all of his collection of like crazy supercars, was directly across the street from me on 83rd Street, between Amsterdam and Columbus. So a lot of times, you know, when I was, you know, just a teenager, you know, vacuuming out these rental cars and washing these cars, I would see Jerry Seinfeld coming up on his bike. He would be wearing his helmet, and he would be putting in the pin code to his garage, and the garage door would open, and this garage was incredible, it was insane, and he would keep amazing cars there. And then a few years later, we would even watch him filming that mini TV series. It was called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and they would film it right there. It's pretty cool. Hey, Tariq. We got a good pal, Tariq Khan is here. What's up, Tariq? Now, Tariq, earlier in the stream, we were talking about how finally, right, we have some good news, well, some more good news, right? A lot of these small cap stocks, right, Russell 2000, are now starting to participate. So as you're having the Magnificent Seven and the Magnificent Five, those type of companies kind of pull back here, we're getting that rotation into the Russell 2000. So if you look at the BlackRock iShares Russell 2000 ETF, the ticker symbol is IWM. Big rally today off the 50-day moving average, and I think we're going to clear some overhead. And if the Russell really starts to rally and head towards all-time record highs, I still think this is go time, if it's ever been go time. But I mean, this is probably one of the strongest markets I've ever seen. It's one of the strongest it is the strongest market I've ever traded. Maybe with the very, very rare exception of the lockout rally right at the start of that 2021, you know, boom, when it was like crazy euphoria. But this market has been power through and through. The leaders are in gear. All of the right sectors are rocking. Semiconductors. It's just a very, very strong market. But we need to start to see more participation from the small caps and micro caps. And today, the Russell 2000 had a pretty good day. So, Albert says Sean Hannity moved out of New York and said New York is falling apart. Yeah, well, I mean, everybody has their opinions. But Sean Hannity's old. He's an older guy. I think he's just, I heard he moved to Florida, but everybody moves to Florida. Every New Yorker has a place in Florida. Every New Yorker has a place in Florida. And I believe Sean Hannity is still employed by Fox News, so he has to kind of say that, right? It's the same thing on the other side of the aisle. If you're employed at CNN, you gotta, you know, talk bad about the other side. That's why I don't watch the news. I do not watch the news. Oh, cool. Someone, Moon is in the chat, says I'm a student pilot. There we go. Well, thank you for being a pilot, or a pilot trainee, I should say. There is a shortage, so thanks so much. The Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour. Now, Taylor Swift won the Super Bowl yesterday. All right, a little bit of Wall Street history. We talk about it every time, but this is Barclays Investment Bank. This is a British bank, but this used to be the old Lehman Brothers. So if anybody ever watched, you know, like 2008 financial crisis documentary, you'd probably see a lot of the bankers coming out these revolving doors here at 7:45, holding cardboard boxes and media cameras all lined up here. This used to be Lehman Brothers right here, right at Times Square North. Dave says, Tom, you have inspired me to turn off the media and the news. And Dave, I'm probably gonna guess your life is a lot better, right? You're dopamine levels have probably risen significantly. You probably are more optimistic and have a better outlook on life. Let me know if I'm on the right track. Look, you know, and not to bag on the media, right? I think the media is important, but it's also sensationalism, and I think we need to, you know, be very cognizant and aware of what the media is trying to do, right? Do I think they're outright malicious? In some cases, I do. Okay, but I think those are the rare cases. But it's sensationalism. They want to get you turned up to drive engagement and to drive clicks, right? So, you know, what I think is, if you read a CNN article and if they're talking bad about, let's say, like a red state, they're probably going full speed at 100. You need to take about 50 miles an hour off of that article, and that's probably where the truth is. Okay? If you see a Fox News article, right, talking bad about New York City, and they're bashing on it at 100, you know, you need to, you know, put on the brakes about 50 miles an hour, and that's probably where the truth lies, right? The rest is just, I should say the delta is probably just sensationalism. You know, meant to get you all riled up. John says, does reading Zero Hedge count? Look, I like Zero Hedge, but that is all fear, right? I like Zero Hedge, you know, but if you just exclusively read and take the advice of Zero Hedge, you would never own a US stock. You would never participate in any bull market, because Zero Hedge is all about how the world's gonna fall apart, how America's gonna fall apart, the dollar's going to go to zero, the S&P is going to go to zero. So look, I think it's good to read these things, but I wouldn't take any investment action based upon really what anybody says, but including me. You shouldn't, right? But Zero Hedge is very, very, I call it bear porn, right? It's sensationalism, it's financial fear porn. Same thing with Peter Schiff, and I love Peter Schiff, okay? Peter Schiff, I listen to his podcast every week. I think he is such a smart guy, okay? But he is such a pessimist. And if you took the advice of Peter Schiff, you would have been on the sidelines since the very low of 2008. You wouldn't have owned a single stock in since 2008. I mean, you wouldn't have been long anything. So. Yeah, FredX. I think that's the comment of the night from FredX. FredX is like, I'd rather be uninformed than misinformed. It's actually true. You know, someone once told me that you don't really need to watch the news anymore, because if something cataclysmic happens, you're going to know about it anyway. So you might as well not even watch the news, because if something really, really horrible and that important happens, you're going to know about it one way or the other. I think by, you know, really engulfing yourself in the media, you're just scaring yourself. And when you scare yourself, that puts you in a paralyzed state, right? And that used to be me 100%, okay? When I was in college, I probably read more research reports from the most bearish analysts on Wall Street, listened to every single Peter Schiff podcast, you know, studied every, you know, macro guy on Wall Street, and it kept me out of every major rally, every single one, right? But that's all anticipating, right? You can't anticipate the market. You got to work with the market you have. And if earnings are coming in strong, if sales are good, if the economy's growing, you know, you got to participate in this game. Right? You can't afford to sit on the sidelines. You got to go out there and participate. And that's not necessarily from an investment standpoint, you know, from a career standpoint, a work standpoint, right? How many times do you hear of friends and coworkers say, oh, I'm not going to apply to this position because I don't have the experience yet, or I don't think I'm ready. You're supposed to do things that you're not ready for, okay? That's the whole point. like by definition, you should take a job title that you're not ready for yet, okay? Because you will never be ready anyway. You need to do things that extend yourself, put yourself out of your comfort zone, okay? So if you are a vice president at an investment bank, you're a VP, and you're like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for managing director. Okay, that's a telltale sign that you should probably put in for MD, right? You've got to keep pushing up. You got to move the ball down the field. So if you consume yourself with too much fear, you're going to be paralyzed and you're never going to act, and life is going to pass you by. Every opportunity you're going to fumble, right? Every single opportunity that'll come your way, you're just going to let it roll right past you. So you got to get in the game. You got to get in the water to catch the wave. That's really about it. There's a lot of police officers in Times Square tonight. I think it's because of that shooting that happened. Apparently there was a really tragic shooting that happened a couple days ago. A tourist was caught in the crossfire. Look at that. You can see the 2024 numerals. Yeah, Jimmy says you got to get up to bat to get that home run. It's true. It's true. I mean, how many home runs did Aaron Judge crush out of the park from the dugout? You're not going to hit a home run if you're sitting at the dugout chewing bubble gum. You got to get up there. You know, you got to take a crack at it. The pigeons of Times Square, my friends. So we're coming up to the NASDAQ as well as One Times Square. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We also send out a free investing newsletter every other Thursday right as the market closes. So if you want to sign up to receive all of our investing research, just scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email and you'll be signed up for our Substack. We publish every other week on our Substack, and if you sign up, you can get access to about 2 years now of free research, right? It's a great way to stay up to date on the markets while supporting the stream for free. And if anybody is looking, or you know somebody that's looking to buy or sell in New York City or Miami in terms of real estate, both residential and commercial, reach out to us here at the Kirsten Jordan team at Douglas Elliman. I'm on one of the top 10 sales teams in New York City, mainly servicing the luxury market. So if you'd like to work together on a deal in New York or in Miami, Florida, reach out to us. And if you're a broker yourself, we are currently looking for land deals in South Florida for development. So developable lots in South Florida. So we can go Fort Lauderdale, all the way down to Miami. That's kind of the spot where we're looking. Mark, what's up? This is Tom. I miss New York City since I moved away. You could always come back. You could always come back. It's never too late. That's right, it's Lunar New Year. Happy Lunar New Year to everybody. Oh, is it really the Year of the Dragon? I had no idea. Very cool. Wow, Pineapple Water says, what about what happened today on the subway? 4 to 5 people. I actually didn't hear about what happened on the subway today. Does anybody want to fill me in? Doug Thompson says, hey Tom. What's up, Doug? It's surprisingly peaceful in Times Square tonight. It's quite nice. Let's check in on futures, guys. Oh, that's right. That's another thing I wanted to talk about tonight. Now, while everybody, is calling for a bear market, right? I was looking on Twitter today, and I was also watching CNBC, which I hardly ever do. There was people on CNBC today calling this market a blow-off top. They were calling it a climactic blow-off top. And I'm like, look, if this was really a, climactic blow-off top, you would have all of these cryptocurrencies trading at new all-time record highs, right? We have not yet hit a new high for Bitcoin, but today we just broke 50,000, the big 50,000 on Bitcoin. Okay, I think that move is just getting started. I think in 2024 you're going to blow through the highs, and that is usually when the move just starts. By the way, okay, once you blow through those highs, that's when kind of things get that frothiness in the market. So if you go back and study previous bear markets, the conclusion at which, right, bear markets end, it is true. Or I should say bull markets end. I apologize. If you go back and study, oh, look at that. That's reassuring. This is our national debt. Your family's share is $519,190. Whew. Yikes. Now that's a problem, right? So being the eternal optimist that I always am, this is actually concerning. The national debt, $519,000 per family. Whew, we got to do something about that. But usually at the end of bull markets, you have everything blow off, right? You have these very big gaps, these really climactic gap ups across the board in every single sector. And in all asset classes too. Like cryptocurrencies, they blow off, and that's exactly what you saw last time with, Bitcoin, the Nasdaq, a lot of these high beta stocks, even in the Russell too. Now you still have things that haven't even broken out yet. So, yeah, crypto memes is our money is backed by debt. That is the fiat currency system, by the way, my friends. Now, if I had to name one main concern, right, That is a very, very real concern that I think we should all be worried about, is our national debt. We can't keep hammering on that thing, because you're essentially borrowing prosperity from future generations. That's really what you're doing. You're taking prosperity from the future and pulling it to the present. This is a cool shot. What do you think of this? This is the Empire State Building. This big steam pipe. I know, Bree Graham's like, I'm never getting paid. Yeah, I probably won't ever get paid. Joel PMs, the debt is the shark and we're in the glass bottom boat, staring at its face, or staring it in the face. I know. That's an interesting way to put it, by the way. Yeah, if the glass breaks. Yikes. Chinook wins, says it's impossible to pay that $34 trillion off. What is the plan? Well, see, that's the thing, right? Now, the reason why the U.S. is so lucky to be able to do what we do, right? Because essentially other nations subsidize our way of life. In a technical sense, right? I mean, would you guys agree with that? So other nations all over the world subsidize our way of life. So long as we can keep issuing debt for others to buy, right? So long as there's an appetite for it, you know, the show can go on. But the question is there going to come a time where there's not an appetite for U.S. debt? Now, many people have been predicting since the lows of 2008 that there's going to be nobody's going to be buying U.S. debt anymore, and that actually couldn't be further from the truth, right? I mean, what would you rather buy? I mean, just think about would you rather, right? Not to kind of deflect, but what is the alternative? Right? I mean, what is, I mean, U.S. Treasuries kind of, you can consider it risk-free. I'm using air quotes here, but this is West 41st Street. Right at Bryant Park. Pineapple water, I didn't know that. That's horrible. Look at that little rat right here. You can see him crawling around. This is the Bryant Park Winter Village. You have a great view of the One Vanderbilt building. Yeah, Peter's absolutely right. So long as we are the reserve currency, we can get away with it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Angela says, Tom, what's in the black bag that you carry? I just saw you passed on 42nd Street dressed in a black bag. It's a briefcase. So I have like laptop, like 160,000 cash, a couple pens, and a backup DVD of Spaceballs. That's really it. I don't really carry too much in it. A lot of times I just leave it at home. Oh, this is the Bank of China here, by the way. Right as we turn the corner on West 40th Street. I love the architectural design of the building. It kind of looks like a spaceship, doesn't it? Look at that. You know, this is one of my favorite buildings in the city. And it's very much overlooked. Very, very much overlooked. I know, TK Porsches would you rather use your federal tax dollars to pay interest on debt or provide meaningful services to the citizenry? Meaningful services, for sure. Now that's I know we've been joking around about it, but that is a huge problem, right? Because as interest rates have gone up, you know, if we have trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars worth of debt, you know, as we keep accumulating debt, it's going to be increasingly more difficult to service that debt because it's more expensive, right? As interest rates go up, we have to pay a larger portion in interest. And I believe there was some crazy statistic that just came out that by the year 2026, the interest on our debt alone is going to surpass our defense budget in and of itself, just the interest. Which is wild. Which is really crazy. So the Federal Reserve obviously has that on their mind, and they need to do something about it. But if they lower interest rates too soon, well, the problem there is you could set off another inflation wave. But if you leave interest rates high for longer, you know, what is that going to mean for debt servicing in America? It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be really, really difficult to do that. Lady Rose says, what about bricks? You know, I think that's a non-issue, to be honest. In my view, I think I'll say that. I think it's a non-issue. I'm actually going to write a piece about it and why I believe it is a non-issue on Thursday. But I'll put a little bit of an excerpt in there. But that's another thing a lot of these macro analysts are saying, is that the entire world is going to move away from the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, just to kind of stick it to the US. And they also say that China should be feared, right? Should be very much feared as a contender to take over the United States as the leader, as the world leader. And I don't think that's going to happen at all. We've talked about many reasons why. China's going through their own set of problems right now. You know, China's arguably going through one of the worst financial crises since 2008 in terms of the real estate sector. So China has their own problems that they kind of need to deal with, I believe, right? There's the old saying that when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold. So if you think it's bad here, I mean, what do you think it's like in some of the other, particularly emerging market countries out there, right? I gotta plug you guys in. Just give me a second. Mark says, damn, I wouldn't carry any cash like that. I honestly don't even remember the last time I've paid for something in physical cash. I only use Apple Pay. You know, that's another narrative that we talk about. A lot of people are freaking out about, a cashless society. I really don't think it's that big of a deal, right? Now, could there be some, nefarious activity in relation to a cashless society? Yeah, for sure, there could. But I truly believe that this is just a natural progression in technology, right? I mean, do we pay for things in shekels anymore? I mean, do we barter with each other, right? No. I mean, do I walk into the Starbucks and try to pay in seashells? No, of course not, right? Because we've evolved and we have a different, monetary system now, just like we did back in the day. Now, there's a really good book. It's called The Bitcoin Standard. And even if you don't like Bitcoin, you don't have to, okay? Just read the first part of the book and then don't read the second part of the book. Because the first part of the book, The Bitcoin Standard, is all about the history of currency since the beginning of mankind, right? From bartering with each other to, gold, transacting in physical gold coins, right? To when they would do the coin clippings. Anyone remember that? That was a form of currency debasement and currency devaluation, was the coin clipping. They talked about when they would use seashells as a form of payment. And now I think the next progression is a digital form of payment. Nobody's going to be walking around with physical bills and coins. It's just inefficient. It's ridiculous, right? I think it's just a natural progression. Yeah, John says Bitcoin went up like 4% today. We're back over 50,000. Back over 50,000 in Bitcoin. So all good there. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think that this cashless society is a power grab? Or do you think that it's just a natural progression? What do you think? Peter says, if your phone breaks, what do you do? Or the store reader won't work, do you use a credit card? I either will get a new phone or just use my card to tap to pay. Now, okay, let's sort of run that scenario. If I audit all of my transactions, I've never yet ran into the instance where my phone breaks and I can't pay for something, right? I live in a big city. I'm not going to starve, right? I could wait, a few hours to repair my device or whatnot. TK Porsche, digital currency is good, but reporting all transactions over $600 to the government is a no-go. No, I totally agree with that. But I will also say this, by the way. Governments know every single transaction you make, everything you spent your money on. where you spent it, how you spend it, your spending habits, who you send money to. They already know, right? I think that's pretty clear. Now, I know the IRS now makes it a rule. I believe it's if anything above $600, it has to be reported, but they know anyway. I mean, let's be honest. You think with all of the technology that's out there, okay, the federal government has, do you really think the government doesn't know every single transaction I've made? Like, if I go to my Chase account, right, and I Chase QuickPay, you know, Brad in the chat, $300. You don't think the government knows that? Of course they know that. I mean, they're monitoring everything. They just don't tell you they're monitoring everything, right? This kind of reminds me of that story when everybody was freaking out how Tucker Carlson, remember when the government was reading Tucker Carlson's text messages because he was going to do some interview in Russia. This was before he did the interview with Putin, and everybody was like aghast. They were like, oh my gosh, the government was what a violation of privacy. Number one, I agree. Total violation of privacy, totally dystopian, totally crazy. But the government does that all day, every day, okay? The government knows every single text you sent. There's a huge database of every single text message you've sent, every single photo you've posted online, every single word you've ever written online in the history of forever. It's living there forever, okay? I used to work at the phone company. The government could listen in on your calls. They could read your text messages. They can do it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. They could do it. So. I'm not saying I agree with it. I want to make that distinction clear. I'm not saying that I think the government should be able to do it. If anything, I'm the polar opposite. I'm a conservative, more libertarian, right? Total laissez-faire. I want the government out of my business. But I'm also a realist, right? And I also know that this is 2024 and that the government, you know, probably knows what I ate for breakfast this morning, to be quite honest. But oh, for sure. Yeah, Peter's like, they better have a warrant if they expect to use what they hear. Yeah. I mean, I think we just need to be realistic, right? If the US government, right, can find Saddam Hussein in the middle of nowhere in a little hole. I mean, think about that, guys. We found, you know, Saddam Hussein in a hole in the ground, like smaller than a little manhole. Right? Smaller than this. We found him in the ground on the other side of the world. You don't think the government knows, you know, I sent somebody $600 to JP Morgan Chase? Of course they do. Of course they know. Wow, it's getting late. We've already been streaming for 2 hours. Holy crap. I know, yeah, 20 plus years ago, right? And again, I just want to make a triple clarification because it may come off as I'm saying that this is all good. No, this is not. I'm totally against everything, right? I want the government out of my life. But I also know that, you know, I mean, if Elon Musk is sending satellites into space, Starlink, I mean, pretty soon you're going to be surveilled in every turn that you go. But everybody, I think this was a lot of fun. I think I had a lot of fun tonight. I want to thank all of you for coming out and hanging out with us tonight on Walks in Wall Street. You never know, maybe tomorrow we'll be trudging through 6 inches of snow on the live stream. So if you want to come back tomorrow on a snowy live stream, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. And again, if you want to sign up to receive all of our financial research for free, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen. And every other Thursday, we will send you the Behind the Street newsletter, which is a bi-weekly research piece written by myself, emailed out to all of you. So go ahead and check that out. Once again, we send it out this Thursday. So do not miss it. Go ahead, scan the QR code, punch in your email, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stay safe, stay warm, and maybe we'll see you in the snow. Who knows? All right, Lady Rose, appreciate it. Mohammed, thank you so much. Richard Vogel, D, Austin City Limits, Zozo Bob, Mike Skate TV, appreciate you. Soho Joe, thanks for joining us. Hawaii, appreciate you as always. Lance, Taudatara, Meld, Western Mass Dave, to the Mighty Bull. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Madison 32, Sam M, the one and only Fred X, the legend from Alaska.